What is déjà vu? Déjà vu is defined as an eerie experience in which we recognize that a situation is familiar, sometimes so intensely so, while we are concurrently aware that this sense of familiarity is inappropriate. This video will focus on the debate of the different processes during déjà vu. Firstly, we will focus on the dual processing approach. Cleary looked at the influence of recognition memory. Recognition memory is memory that allows us to realize that what we have experienced has been experienced before. Cleary determined there is two parts in recognition memory. The first one is recollection. Recollection is when you have experienced an event and know where you have experienced it before. For example, you walk in a room and you see someone in a public place. You know that you've seen them before somewhere, so you think about it really hard. And finally, you can remember where you've seen them before. The second part is familiarity. Familiarity is when you have experienced an event, however, you don't know where you have experienced it before. Using the same example, you see someone in a public place and you know that you have seen them before, and even though you think about it really hard, you can't remember. In conclusion, Cleary determined that the dual processing approach is important for studying and understanding the basis of déjà vu, since recollection and familiarity form what makes up déjà vu. Secondly, we will look at selective familiarity. Martin and his squad were curious of déjà vu in temporal lobe epilepsy patients. Therefore, their study used participants who experienced déjà vu prior to a seizure, participants who never experienced déjà vu prior to a seizure, participants who were healthy, but they didn't accept participants who sometimes experienced déjà vu. They did two experiments. The first was a remember no task that was used to determine familiarity with old and new contextual information. The second was an exclusion task, which was used to see how well participants perform with abandoning the feeling of familiarity. In task 1, participants looked at 80 images of indoor scenes at approximately 2,000 milliseconds. They were then asked to identify the wealth of the owner on a 3-point scale. They were then presented with a word search for a 5-minute filler task. In the test phase of task 1, they were shown 80 studied and 80 unstudied images and were asked to identify if they were old or new. After the completion of that, they were able to finish task 1 and they were ready to move on to task 2. In the exclusion task, they were shown 150 images of outdoor scenes that flashed by at also approximately 2,000 milliseconds, and once again were asked to determine the wealth of the owner on a 3-point scale. They were given another word search for a 5-minute filler task. This time, during the test phase, they were given 72 studied scenes and 48 lures, which is an image that is new but will be repeated throughout the test phase, and they asked the participants to consistently recall the lure as a new image, no matter how many times they saw it. Martin and his colleagues found that both the TLE participants had evidence to support impairments within familiarity-based responses in comparison to the healthy controls, and this was determined through the discriminability index, which looked at correct versus rejected answers. In experiment 2, only the déjà vu TLE participants were observed to have a pattern of selectivity impairments that counteracted the familiarity signals, which was found through saying a lure was old. They concluded that déjà vu in TLE patients is linked to the impairments of the ability to selectively recognize familiarity-based information. Thirdly, we will focus on gray matter volume. Brasdell and his posse questioned how déjà vu worked in non-pathological people. They hypothesized that non-pathological déjà vu created the same implications on the neural networks as pathological déjà vu. They decided to use source-based morphometry. What the hell is that, you ask? It's used to determine slight differences in gray matter volume. To start their experiment, all healthy participants were given MRIs and then were asked to rate their frequency of déjà vu. From here, the experimenters took the MRIs and analyzed them with a source-based morphometry. What they found is that déjà vu is associated with lower gray matter in specific areas of the brain, most significantly in the hippocampi and parahippocampal gyri. They also found that the frequency of déjà vu experiences is correlated to volume of gray matter. They then concluded that non-pathological déjà vu is just as common as pathological déjà vu and is proven to have effects on the volume of gray matter in specific regions of the brain. Lastly, we will look at subjective memory. At least, I think that's what it's about. O'Connor and Moulin wanted to look at individual differences of healthy participants and recognition. In their study phase, participants studied 20 words that had high familiarity frequency, like room, and 20 words that had low familiarity frequency, like junket. The participants had 40 study trials. After the trials, they were given a word from the list and asked if the words were remembered, familiar, being guessed, or new. Then in the test phase, the participants were given 80 intermixed words, 40 studied and 40 new. Then participants were given an individual difference measure where they were asked to identify their age, gender, déjà vu frequency, and their traveling frequency. They found high accuracy of the recognition task, but no correlation between déjà vu experiences and recollection and familiarity. They also found that déjà vu frequency and travel frequency correlate, which confirms individual differences. What the hell does that mean? Well, I will let O'Connor state it for you.
One will be more likely to detect déjà vu in situations where the mismatch between the feeling of familiarity and the environment is more apparent. Thus, the more one travels to novel places, the more opportunities there are to experience déjà vu.
Does that make sense to you? No? Me either. Anyways, they concluded that déjà vu in healthy participants is not able to be accurately measured through common recognition tasks, denying the idea of recollection and familiarity being associated with healthy participants. They also suggested that déjà vu may be due to covariant tendencies to experience subjective memories. In an overall summary, there are three main causes of déjà vu: recollection and familiarity within the DPA of recognition memory, selective familiarity impairments of TLE patients, and decreased gray matter volume in brain regions of healthy participants. However, there is evidence that shows that healthy participant déjà vu cannot be accurately measured through recognition tasks. This is so hard.